Hi everyone, my name's Anson and I'm a junior UX designer, so thank you for hosting this talk today and giving me the opportunity to share a side project I'm working on. For me as a designer, it's great that you can design and draw a lot of pretty wireframes and do a lot of great design work, but part of being a designer is to be able to communicate your work and convey what you've created to different stakeholders. So I'm here to practice that skill. I'm going to talk about the user experience in financial health management today, and it's a work in progress project I'm working on, so hopefully you guys will learn a bit about what I'm working on currently. So, why money? A lot of people think, when they think of banks and financial services, they often think of it as very unsexy and unattractive brands, but actually they have a lot of different and interesting design challenges to work on. And for me personally, money, it's something that I really like spending, but at the same time, it's also a very fascinating thing that sometimes is tangible, sometimes it's intangible, and people's relationship with money changes over time as they age. So I've always been really intrigued to discover and learn a bit more about people's relationship with money, and hence thought doing a side project would be a great opportunity to learn about that. And secondly, there's also this coming term here. I don't know if anyone's heard of the term open banking. I see a few nods, a few no's. Do people know what open banking does or is? Okay, so for those who may not have a very great idea about open banking, but it's essentially a regulations that have been put in place so that smaller and newer financial service providers will be able to compete better with larger high street retail banks, as well as encouraging competition in the financial market. And they do that by giving you, the user, the opportunity and permission to give your banks the authority to then share your banking information through secure APIs. Just like how you can now log on to different sites with your Facebook profile, you'll soon be able to do that with your bank account. And to do that, it's to first encourage, as users, you'll then receive more relevant advice and information about your financial decision making, create more ways to pay, and create a more competitive environment and break down that traditional monopoly that banks have had over consumer data. So learning about a bit more about people's relationship with money, I went in to do some research. I established a research scope. First, I want to learn about what are people's relationship with money like currently. How do people actually manage their finances? And what are the problems and current problems and of methods that people are using currently at the moment? Before going to research, I kind of went into it with some hypotheses that I set up. So people actually actively manage the finances is a big, important one. The act of managing finances is both time and effort consuming, so that people actually have the incentive to do something about it. And also, currently people do not have enough information to make a very informed decision about their financial health. So I tested a user journey with a current user who is managing a finance towards the end of the month. So he's had to log into 2 different bank accounts. And in this journey, he's had to log in and log off 3 times and leave different apps, log on to a different bank provider from a mobile platform onto a web platform. At the same time, he's experienced different frustration with regards to experience and inconsistent information, inconsistent language. So there's obviously a problem to be solved here. I then went out to the street and reached out to my network. I spoke to 10 different people to learn about their relationship with money and how they currently manage it. I put all of them onto the affinity map to then better learn about the relationships and different relationship and connections between some of the points that they've spoken about. So here's what I learned. Why do people actually manage their financial health? Firstly, and majority, just like how people look at their mental and physical health, they want to be in control. Being in control and maintaining a healthy financial status was very important to them, and it was a great motivation. Secondly, there was a large sense of security as well as a sense of protection that needed. So that as well, having that safety net to fall back on, acted as a motivation for users to actively manage their financial health. And lastly, people saw it as a skill that they need to acquire to improve life. And one of the users actually said, it's the adult thing to do, and very much it's a skill that people pick up on as you grow older. So how do people currently manage their financial health? Well, some of the users actually just estimate. So not having to track anything, they often keep a mental note about what they're spending, how they're saving. Some users think about what the minimal vital account balance is for them, and then they kind of figure out a ballpark figure how much they need to spend, how much they need to save up to actually sustain through the month. And some people keep a mental note. Secondly, some other users actually are very vigorous trackers who may be habitual because of a job nature. I found that people who are probably self-employed are then actually required to do so and pick up the habit to actively manage their financial health. Also, technology has played a key role in that with startups like Monzo that's really helped users make this journey a lot easier for them. In this journey of financial health management, I also identify a lot of pain points. So with users who have multiple accounts, it is very difficult and time-consuming for them to manage all of these at once. And it's a very tasking process. Also, there are payments such as subscriptions and little charges that kind of just goes under radar and people don't often realize it. However, these often add up, and it causes a lot of frustration for some of the interviewees I've looked at, spoken to. So in summary, with varying levels of accuracy, people actually are in general motivated to manage their finances. However, the act of managing their financial health is both time-consuming and very difficult to do, unless for the users who've developed the habit of doing so. So looking at the hypothesis we established earlier, the first two has been validated. However, the last hypothesis about people's lack of information and their financial literacy has not been validated, and we'll look at that further. So from speaking to some of the interviewees, they've found that there's actually a really clear knowledge and information gap, and that's acts as a challenge for them to make an informed decision about their financial health. So one of the users I spoke about was Ellen, who spoke about, I have all intention to change my bank, however I don't know where to start. So there's a clear lack of knowledge here, and as well as a user, Sarah, who's been talking about how different banks censor different information about the same problem, and they use inconsistent languages and inconsistent copyright, and therefore has been really frustrating experience for her. Lastly, and probably one of my favorite quotes from the research process was this interviewee, Tommy, said, "I can't see the consequences and costs for me behind this plastic card." So there is a clear lack of transparency in the current process and method. And speaking to them, I found out where people actually learn these knowledge from. And 9 out of my 10 users said that it's actually from their family members. So not from the service providers that they're currently receiving a service from, but from friends, family, and their own network. And therefore, I feel like there is a clear problem for us as designers to actually step into the space and tackle how we can look at improving that financial literacy and making it easier for our users to make an informed financial decision. So the problem statement is the act of managing money is both time and effort consuming. However, and also learning how to do so is a very huge learning curve. And bear in mind at the time I'm going to skip a few slides, but I've done some market research looking at what are the current offerings here and what are the design challenges that different startups as well as traditional banks are trying to solve. I went to sketching and creating different wireframes, and then I looked at played around with two different ideas. So with open banking, it's allowed us to now use account aggregation. So users can now have all their different bank accounts all within the same app, all stored in the same space. So I've been designing around this idea, hoping that with the goal to help users to overcome that difficult journey and reduce the effort and time required to do so. And lastly, to discover what other products there are on the marketplace on offer, and how do we tailor that for our user. These are some of the wireframes that I've been testing, and some of the feedback I've got at the moment are around the concerns around security. Having all this aggregated data in one place draws us some concerns. And also, there are some usability problems of how do I display all this overwhelming information in a clear and concise way. So actually, that's it for the talk, but it's very much a work in process project. So if anyone has any feedback or would like to sign up for a prototype testing later, my details are on here. Thank you.
Thank you.